Welcome back to part 2 of 7 days to be a more effective leader, where we're learning some strategies around how to really build your leadership, particularly to combat that idea that 79% of people leave their jobs blaming a lack of recognition or appreciation for their reason for leaving. So we're going to leap to day 5. Part 1 covered off the first 4 days of transforming your leadership. So if you haven't watched that, make sure you check out part 1 linked on your screen. But for the rest of us, let's dive into part 2 and day 5. Day 5 is all about recognizing and appreciating your team. This is about acknowledging all of those contributions that your team members are making. It fosters a positive work environment, boosts morale, and actually increases productivity. Because if you're reassuring people that they're on the right track and they're doing the right things, hopefully they're going to repeat it and keep doing it. Here are some practical tips to incorporate this into your leadership style. Firstly, catch them out in the moment. Make the recognition meaningful by acknowledging it when you see it, rather than waiting to a Friday meeting to call it out in front of everybody. Although doing that is important too, but doing it in the moment really matters. Make sure you provide specific praise too, in terms of what it is that you thought was amazing about what it is they were doing. Vague and watered down appreciation like "great job" actually doesn't have as much of an impact. If you see a team member handling a difficult situation well, or producing great work, tell them there and then in the moment. I know for me, I can find it really easy to overlook these moments or forget that I've seen it and move on to the next thing, even though I do really appreciate it. Knowing that I want to acknowledge them in the moment brings it straight to the front of my mind when I see it, so that I'm more likely to do it as a habit. It has the bonus of building connection and engagement with the team too, as you're obviously talking to them more. Try to incorporate personalised approach in terms of this too. If you know that approaching a team member who's doing something really great in the moment is actually going to really embarrass and humiliate them, don't do it that way. Do it when you're with them one-on-one, if that's what they prefer. Just know your team and understand what kind of reaction you're going to get when you do this. I know for one of my team members who I had in the past, they really disliked that public recognition of a great job, and I had to be really careful about balancing what I know their colleagues need to recognise as great work and their own feelings of embarrassment about being publicly recognised. So yep, there were times where I did it publicly because I knew it was important that it was seen, but I was also mindful of which things I chose so that I wasn't overly praising them in a way that made them feel really awkward. Try and celebrate successes that are big and small. You can do this by acknowledging milestones as they go. So it could be that they're project milestones that you're acknowledging as it progresses. It could be that it's work anniversaries that you're acknowledging, like someone who's been at the job for a long time or has a 5-year anniversary. Make sure you acknowledge it, because that shows that you've got, hopefully, a hardworking and loyal employee, which is great. Try and create a culture of peer-to-peer recognition too. If you're setting the tone by acknowledging team members for their good work, it's also great to kind of encourage that peer-to-peer acknowledgement. It can't be forced, it has to be genuine. But if you hear a team member giving another team member praise for something, make sure you give them a wee "great work" on the side, just to kind of reinforce that behaviour. Don't forget that this includes thank you too. Thanking somebody for good work that they're doing goes a long way. It doesn't have to be a big thank you party. Sometimes it's just saying, "Hey, what you put together there was really great. It was more than I expected, and I really appreciate you." That could be enough, depending on how significant it was. It might be that it's part of their job, but hey, thanking people for doing their job well is all part of being a leader. Some key considerations around this one are ensuring that your appreciation or thank you is genuine. We can all see through those token appreciations that others may give to us. it doesn't feel great and it kind of devalues all of the work that you've done. Don't be that person. Try and make it consistent. Making thanking people and recognizing their contributions part of your leadership. And don't forget to include everyone. You don't need to include people that are not performing and are showing bad behavior, but you do need to note what it is that those people that are showing those things do well, because I can guarantee there will be something that they do that is good, and it's important to acknowledge that too. So make sure you're being inclusive. A6 is about effective delegation. Do you do everything yourself even though you know you could probably hand some more things off? Do you know how to delegate to your team? Encourage your team and develop them by ensuring that you're appropriately delegating to them. Firstly, it's important to acknowledge any barriers that you might have around delegation. Are you worried about how your team might perceive delegation? Are you feeling overwhelmed by the thought of even trying to delegate? Challenge these misconceptions and recognize that delegation is not about giving everyone all the tasks on your list so you have to do less work. It's about empowering your team, putting your trust in them to do the work, and building up their skills and ability. One thing I do to help overcome that overwhelming delegation feeling is to do a bit of a brain dump. Write down all of the tasks that I have on my to-do list to help create a picture of my true workload. Then you can move through the list and categorize and prioritize any of the tasks. It's also important to recognize the things that definitely can't be delegated and that it's actually really important that you keep hold of. Go through the list and think about the skills that are required to complete the tasks. You can then match tasks to relevant team members by skill, which is aligned to their strengths and considers their development goals. Don't be afraid to stretch them a little bit. Have a quick delegation meeting where you go through the task and what it is that you need completed, the desired outcome and the time frame. Offer guidance and support, but avoid micromanaging. Make sure that you're being really careful about this too. Don't be delegating tasks that you know somebody has no chance of fulfilling. Match it with where they've got key skills and appropriately delegate. Provide clear instructions and be specific about this. Make sure that you're setting them up for success too, with the resources and support that's required. Be available for guidance and feedback, but again, don't micromanage. If you can incorporate feedback sessions where you get an update of how they're progressing and an opportunity for them to ask questions and just clarify the pathway that they're on. It is your job as a leader to delegate. You will know that you cannot do all the things that you need to do by yourself, but by delegating, you're actually growing and empowering your staff. And often there's things on your list that you know that you shouldn't be doing, but you feel like you don't have time to give them out to team members. Make sure that you set yourself up with a structure where it's really easy for you to delegate. If you've got clear instructions, you can give clear outcomes, actions, and timeframes. There's no reason why you couldn't do a delegation meeting within 10 to 15 minutes if you're really clear. Remember though, delegation does not mean you are not responsible. You are still responsible for the outcome. Day 7 is to cast a compelling vision. Paint a picture of the future and inspire your team to work towards a common goal. This might sound all blue skies, but this is really just about how does what we're trying to achieve connect with my team? What do my team think about what it is that our overall goals are? Do they understand them? Do they even know what we're working for? Have they connected how their role fits within what it is that you're trying to achieve? If you can connect team members to this is what we're trying to achieve and this is how your specific role and actions contribute to this, you are more likely to have a team that is motivated to do good work. The first step is to start with clarity. How does what your team is doing connect with where the organisation is going or what the organisation does? Why does it matter? Why should your team care? People connect with purpose, not just goals. Remember that your passion for this must be sincere, as your team will immediately pick up if you're not genuine. Focus on the positive impact and connect your people to the vision, the goal, what they're doing, make it real, make it actionable. You can do this from the outset by getting their contribution when you're setting a goal. So if they're feeding into, this is what we're aiming for, this is the goal, this is when we think we can achieve it, hopefully they're more on board with actually working together towards that goal. It depends where you're at in terms of your team and what they're contributing to. If you can do it though, it really fosters a sense of commitment and purpose, even if you have to break it down into a micro goal for the team. That is about, hey, as a team, we agree that we're going to work towards this level of performance by this date as our contribution to this blue skies goal that we feel we're not really connected to. And that way it brings it to a really clear purpose for them. Once you've done this, you need to communicate it effectively. And this really means repetition. You're going to have to repeat the goal more times probably than what you're comfortable with for somebody to really hear and understand the message. It can be necessary to use multiple forms of communication. There's obviously verbal, through meetings, conversations, and then there's emails and chats, and then that idea of repeating it, not every day, but often enough that it's normalized, that people know what you're talking about and what it means for them. You also have to consider how your actions align with what it is you're saying and being consistent with your message. Another important element is celebrating the progress that you're making too. So it's not just about regurgitating the goal, it's about saying, hey, we started here and now we're here, and next quarter we're going to be here. It's really connecting that all together with them so they understand. You're also going to have to be prepared to address any challenges or obstacles that could arise, which could mean completely throwing it all out and starting again from scratch. Persevering towards something that is obviously not going to have the outcome you need is not really great leadership. Being able to be resilient and pivot when it's required, and show your team that it's okay to have that as the outcome. We tried it, it didn't work, we're pivoting now to this. Let's all rally behind it and get together. If they're really connected to the goal and you've been communicating clearly, they'll understand why you're pivoting because they would have already seen what the progress looked like and be connected to it. So hopefully the work to get people to change, if you needed to, is not insurmountable. Connecting your team with your vision will take consistent work, just like all the other 6-day strategies that we've highlighted in this 2-part video series. I've worked with a manager recently who was struggling with team morale. After implementing these 7 strategies, particularly the one around active listening and recognition, she saw quite a dramatic shift. The team became more engaged, more proactive, which was highlighted through things like unplanned leave stopping. So people were turning up to work more often than what they had been. People seemed more connected and more engaged with each other. Her reflections of the 7-day strategy idea is that it wasn't magic though. It was actually sustained effort over time. It didn't happen overnight. These 7 strategies, active listening, empathy, clear communication, constructive feedback, recognition, delegation, and vision, and connection to vision are building blocks of effective leadership. What leadership challenges are you facing? Put them in the comments and be sure to check out my other videos for more leadership tips and tricks. And thanks very much for watching.